Hi there, it's David Young, the Resourceful Coach, and what we're going to go through today is my way of reading greens, and we're going to go through the full comprehensive way that you can do it. And at the end of the video we're going to give you my grid, which will break down everything so you can read a putt. Now, with the majority of my coaching, I don't like to get too technical because I think golf, we want to keep it as simple as we can. And there's a few of you might watch this video today and go, wow, that seems a bit too excessive what we're going through. But if you can take the ideas of it and just take 2 or 3 key points that we're going to go through, I think it'll make a massive difference to your putting. If you want to go full, sort of go through everything completely and you want to spend a bit of time on it, I think it'll make a massive difference. And what I've found with this green reading method that I've come across and what I've created, because it is my method that I've created it from, is it's using physics to understand how to get that ball into the hole. But what I've found is golfers very rarely 3-putt if they stick to this process. So we're going to work today just around what I'd call more the average putt that we might get on the green, something around about 20 feet, and understand how the green is going to affect your putt and what you're looking for to give yourself a much greater chance to get more putts in the hole, hopefully in one, but definitely get rid of those 3 putts. That's what we're looking to do. So where do we start? Okay. Every golf lesson I give when it comes to putting, I always start with green reading. Because for me, if you can't read a green, you don't know where to aim, you don't know how hard to hit it. And those 2 things are the most important things when you're hitting a putt. So the speed becomes so important in the putt. And what we're going to show you today is by understanding gravity, how much easier that's going to make it for you to get that ball in the hole. And as I said, get it close, guarantee 2 putts. Even if you're putting from 30, 40 feet, you can use this idea. And it will show you also in certain putts how much break is on a putt. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look for when we walk onto a putting green, here's our ball. And I've deliberately put it here to explain the first thing that we're looking for. And what I always do when I read a putt, I will always go to the hole first. I would always walk up to the hole. And this is the opposite to what I did all the time as a junior golfer and probably playing my professional golf. I would always read the putt from the ball and I probably wouldn't come up to the hole. But so why do I come up to the hole? Well, the biggest reason I come up to the hole is the fact that when the ball is running out of energy, this is where it's going to turn the most. And at the end of the day, it's the position I want to end up in. I want to end up in that hole if possible. That's the goal. That's what I'm looking to achieve. And what I'm looking for when I get here, I'm really looking initially for 2 or 3 key things. Number 1, if I imagine filling that hole up with water and it started overflowing, where would the water run? Now, a lot of people say to me, well, I can't see that. Now, there's different ways that you can then work on this idea. Again, it depends how thorough you want to be with it. You can go out and physically buy yourself a little sort of electronic spirit level. That's what I did to start with. And in buying this, what it allowed me to do was understand the slopes a little bit better, okay? You've all nowadays got phones. If you go onto your phone, you've got measuring devices on it. There's probably a spirit level on your phone. You can get a rough idea of which way the slope is going. And all I would do, we'll go through this a little bit more as we go along, is position this around the hole and start to learn where the low point would be. But also what it's showing me is the next thing is the importance of understanding how steep the slope is. So I'm getting 2 bits of information by coming up here, is I'm looking for where the low point is, and I want to feel a little bit through my feet how severe the slope is. And most people say to me, well, how severe is the slope? How much do you know it is? And that's where something like this is so important. If you can purchase yourself something like this, just go to the practice putting green, or if you go out one evening on the course, just find a hole, nobody around, just put it on the green, and you'll start to get some information. That's what we're looking for as we go through. So if I was to put this on the green, and I feel through my feet, roughly it's going that way, what I'm starting to get is a readout from that computer, is I'm getting a readout of around about 3 degrees. Okay, now, to see if that is the low point, that is where the water's running, that's where I believe it's running, I then go at right angles to that, and what should happen now is that number should reduce to 0 if it's going that way. Okay, so that's telling me that that's the most extreme point, and we've got a slope here of around about, what have we got, 3 degrees. Okay, And that's important. Actually, it's 3%. Slopes are read on percentage. So if you do have a system which maybe picks up the degrees, just add around about 10% to your number to give you the percentage, and that will give you what we're going to do. So everything we're going to work around with this idea is that this slope is a 3-degree slope and it runs straight back towards the camera. So we're just going to check one thing to see if that's given me the right information. If that is the right information, then what I should be getting is that should be a straight putt up the hill. Now, because it's straight up the hill, it tells me you've got to hit it a little bit firmer. So I'm getting some information already. Okay, that 3 degrees will become more important when we've got a putt which hasn't got any break. This putt should not have any break because the water would run straight down to my ball, and that's what it's going to do. But it's 3 degrees, so that's a little bit above average. 20-foot putt, so I need to hit that a little bit firmer than normal. Get the ball running up the hill. There we go. So by using that, admittedly, a little bit of technology to give me the idea, it's shown me that that's the straight uphill putt. So that's the first thing that we're going to look at. That's the first thing that you're looking to find. And here's the important thing. If the green is consistent, okay, so let's take another ball. And we're not guaranteeing every green is consistent. Let's go 20 feet the other side of the hole. Okay. This, in theory, now should be a straight downhill putt. So I'm just going to aim dead straight at the hole. It's 3 degrees going down, a 3% slope going down. So I've got to realise that's a little bit more than normal. So I don't want to hit it too hard, but get it rolling down that hill. Down there. Oh, a little bit under hit it, but you can see how the ball is rolling straight. So what you'll find on a lot of greens that you're playing on is that within 20 feet, the idea that we're going to give you, you'll very rarely have a severe double breaking putt. So this basic idea is going to make it very, very easy for you to sort of get the feeling of getting that ball to the hole. But you could see with both of those putts, we found through technology, through the little gadget, it showed us this was the low point. Going up the hill, lovely putt, went straight in. Coming down the hill, you could see again, there was no break on that putt. So if you've watched one of my previous videos, which is Never 3-putt Again, is we then start to understand as we go round, I'm going to call this a clock face idea, and this is the grid I'm going to give you right at the end of this video to show you what to do, is we're going to go round the clock face and how that then determines the amount of break that you're going to have on that putt. So let's call this one 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is just going straight up the hill. Okay, so if you find yourself on that water line, fall line, whatever expression you want to call it, there is going to be no break on that putt. So you don't have to worry about all the bits I'm going to go through in a minute. If you find yourself on that line, just aim dead straight, work out the power, and away you go. If you finish on the 12 o'clock, guess what? It's dead straight as well. So now again, you just got to do the same thing, aim straight at the hole, commit to that line. What we're now going to start to show you as we go round that hole, and we're going to stick at 20 feet, so that makes it a little bit more consistent as we go through, is realize then as we look at that, how much the putt is going to break. This is a 3% slope. So everything I'm going to talk about today is going to be relative to that slope, because that's the hole that we're using today. And that hole isn't going to change at any point wherever we putt from. So that is going to remain the same all the time. And if you like this idea, you can then map your greens to work out the percentages. You'll often see this a little bit sometimes on the PGA Tour, and they'll show you slopes and the percentage, and obviously it changes throughout the green. This is quite a big green, but I've just chosen this hole because it is the most central positioned hole that we've got on the course at the moment. So it allows me to do 20 feet around that hole. So now we're going to go to the next thing that I would look for if I'm reading that putt and how that's going to work. So we're now going to look at the second part. The first part was finding that low point, and all we've done is highlighted that. We've just put the flag stick here to show the low point. So that's our 6 o'clock on the clock face, and this side now is our 12 o'clock at the top there. So both of those putts are going to be straight putts. And what we're now highlighting is what I call the 3 o'clock position. And what's important to understand is now the next thing that I find, because very rarely do you end up on the straight putt. So now we need to work out how much is the putt actually going to break. And this is the key bit. So as I said, this took me a long time to get this idea, and I used other philosophies out there and then put them together a little bit to create my idea. And what I've sort of worked out is that you have the steepness of slope, and we're looking at 3%. That's the steepness we're looking at there. And we're now looking at 3 o'clock, because it's the central point between the 6 and the 12. It should be the biggest breaking putt. If you think of a slope, if you think of an angle like that, then the middle point should be where it's going to break the most to come back to that position. And we've put ourselves 20 feet away, which is roughly, we're going to break that down. An average pace for me is about 2.5 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just take it at 8 there. And we're now going to times those 8 paces, those 8 lots of 2.5 feet by 3, because 3 is the slope, 8 is the amount of paces. So this is the first thing. You've got to have a little bit of mathematics ability here, but it's just simply 8 times 3. And the answer to that is 24. Now, because this is the central point, the 3 o'clock position, and the 9 o'clock will be the same if the green was consistent, we now know the biggest breaking putt on this green. This is going to break to this hole from 20 feet, 8 paces. The maximum it's going to break, if the green is consistent, I'll keep saying that throughout the lesson, and there'll be people saying, but there's double breaks. I agree with that. There are double breaking putts, but this is just saying this is consistent. 8 times 3, this is going to break 24 inches. So here's the first thing that you can sort of look at from that position. Okay, a golf hole is approximately 4 inches across. Okay, I'm looking for the ball. It's going to come in from the top side of the hole, because it's quite a big breaking putt. So if I take that 24 and divide it by 4, I'm now looking at around about 6 hole widths this is going to break. So I'm just going to use my little device that I did to measure the steepness of slope, and I'm just going to look at that and think, right, I want to be approximately 6 hole widths to the side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're nearly out to the butt of that club. So that's where I've put that on the green, is now where I need to aim. Okay, now this bit's really important. This is the flat putt. When you're putting from 3 o'clock, it's not uphill, it's not downhill. You are putting flat across the green. It's just going to turn towards the low point. People read this as a downhill putt. 12 o'clock side is downhill. 6 o'clock side is uphill. 3 and 9 o'clock are smack in the middle. They are going to be what I call the level putt. So this is not really an uphill putt or a downhill putt. So that's really important. All I'm interested in now is aiming 24 inches to the side of the hole, because I'm going to come in at the top edge. Okay, if I was going into the middle of the hole, which is very rare when you've got to break this much, you'd only allow 22 inches, because it'll take 2 off to go into the middle of the hole. But I'm looking to come in at the top side, so I'm going to use all 24 inches. And that's where I'm aiming. Okay. And again, what I find is that when we look at this putt, the biggest thing I want to make sure I'm doing, I'm getting this ball down in 2 shots. So I'm going to aim at the little gadget just inside the butt of the club there. And let's see if we can get that line. Let's see if my method of reading the green is good. And if I can get the speed right, then we can end up close to the hole. Okay, so you can see it start to come round to the hole. And you can see my green reading was absolutely spot on. Physics isn't wrong. All I needed to do was hit that golf ball a foot further and I'd have probably held it. But look what I've got. A guaranteed tap in from there. And I've got my 2 putt. So we've now got 4 pieces of the clock face. 6 and 12 are dead straight. 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, if the green is consistent, will all break that 24 inches. Now, here's the good news, okay? We're going to give you 2 more that you don't even have to think about it. They're going to be exactly the same amount of break. We'll explain why in a second. So we're now going to look at what I call the 2 o'clock position. We're working our way around the clock face. We're understanding what happens. And what you've got to understand, we're going to talk a little bit to start with about downhill putts. We're going to talk about 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock and how those affect the putts. And what's really important to understand is that when you are putting down the hill, you have to hit the ball softer. If you hit the ball softer to end up getting the right speed, the ball is going to turn more because there's less speed on the putt. So here's the good news. The amount of break from the 3 o'clock is going to be exactly the same at 2 o'clock. They're going to break pretty much the same. So we're going to allow Again, from our position there, 6 hole widths. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're out here. We're going to have 6 hole widths of break again, out towards that. And what I've got to do now is realise and trust the speed coming down the hill. So let's see if that works. There's our 8 paces or so, 20 feet from the hole. So now I'm aiming at my gadget out to the right side of the hole. Commit to that line. And realise I've got to hit it a little bit softer than the putt I had across the hill. Because remember, that was the flat putt. This is slightly downhill. And let's see if we can get it close. But let's trust that line out to the right. See it start to drop down. And everything's finding its way. Everything's trying to find its way towards the flagstick. So again, a little bit winter green at the moment. A little bit damp. We had quite a bit of rain overnight. But we've got our 2-putt. So you can start to see how this is going to work. So you've now got 6 parts of your clock face. I'm going to keep repeating these. You can write these down. So 6 and 12, no break. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is your 100% break. And how that's worked out is by the steepness of slope, which you need to go and practice, by the amount of paces, roughly 2.5 feet per pace. So 8 paces today. We've got a slope there of 24 inches. So 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they're all going to break what I call the 100% break. When you've worked out that 100%, you've now got 6 lots of your clock face. Okay? The next few bits that we're going to go through, took me a little bit more time to work that out, but if you get it right, it makes such a difference. So now we're going to look at our last 2 positions on the top side. We're just going to work at 1 o'clock, but 11 o'clock would do exactly the same. So now here's our first position where we're not going to be 0, we're not going to be 100%. And I'll work this out. This is going to be approximately 60% of that maximum break. You never lose that number. That 24 inches is our maximum break. 60% of 24, we're looking around about 14.5 inches of break. Okay, and think about where we're coming into the hole. Because we're coming a bit more down, we might come in just from the top. So we're probably looking about 14 inches to the side of the hole. So that's around about 3.5 hole widths. Okay, as I said, I don't like to make golf hard. Okay, I want to make it as simple as I can. But for me, if you can get this method, it might seem a little bit extreme. It's amazing how it improves your golf. So we're looking at, what did we say, 13.5 inches outside the hole roughly. So we're going just under, that's 3.5. 1, 2, 3, 3.5 hole widths out there. That's my line. Let's see if my method's working. Okay, so now I'm aiming out there. I've got to hit it a little bit softer because we're coming more direct down the hill. Let's see if we can get it out to that position and see if it'll fall down. Let's see if we can actually get the speed right and maybe hole a putt. Oh, I just took a little bobble, just that winter green. I thought that was in the middle of the hole. But you can see what it's doing. It's gradually getting less break. So now if you're writing this down, we've gone from 0 to 100. We're now looking 60%. And that's the same. If the green is consistent, keep saying it, from 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So now we're going to look at those putts going up the hill. And we've got a couple of putts there. It's going to be slightly different. To make it easier, we're just going to do the opposite. We're going to go the other side of the hole. We're going to look at 7 o'clock and how that affects the putt and what that's going to do from there. So we're now going to look at the 7 o'clock. And again, if you remember the one above the hole, the 1 o'clock, this is an easy one to remember. That was 60% going down the hill because we had to hit it a little bit softer. This one going up the hill, what makes up 100%? Well, 60 plus 40. This is going to break 40%. So 40% of our 24. So we're looking again around about just under 10 inches, 9.6 to be exact. And we're coming up the hill. So we're going a little bit more direct into the hole here. So that's quite important. So we're now looking at it around about 8 inches outside. So 2 hole widths. Let's go 2 hole widths, 1, 2. Let's put the gadget there. Okay, and that's my line, as simple as that. So all the time I'm using the 24 inches and I'm working out from there relative to the hole what I've got. And now I'm just working out the hole widths. I like to use the hole, that's just a good visual aid. So I'm going roughly 2 hole widths to the left. Now we're going uphill. on the bottom side of the clock face. So I've got to hit it firmer to go up the hill. So again, it's giving me good information. I'm thinking where I am on the clock face. Every time I do that, I'm getting good information. Let's aim at the gadget. Let's see if we can hold one. Okay, slightly pulled it. Okay. Now that's quite an interesting thing to look at, because people say, oh, that didn't break. So why didn't it break? Okay. Well, if I've pulled the putt, think about logically what I've done. I've now hit the ball much more down the line. If I've put it to the left, it's going much closer to the straight uphill putt. So that's why it didn't break. That wasn't a bad read. That was a bad putt. So let's do another one. So yeah, sometimes you do a video and something there, you can promote something to understand how to do it. So I'm still going to trust that line. Let's see if I can start it correctly. So we're only human. We can all make mistakes. Let's see if we get it right this time. Up the line, and you can see, look how it broke lovely. All I've done there is I've slightly hit it a little bit too firm, but you saw it break the amount. So what we're seeing on those two putts is not my ability to read the green, which is the whole idea of this video. That was down to my ability to putt the ball. The first one I pulled, we didn't see the break. The second one I hit it on a lovely line, but I've hit it 2 and a bit feet too far, and that's why it didn't break until it ran out of energy. Remember what I said right at the start of the video? We said I go and read from the hole because that's where it's going to do the turn the most. So watch that part of the video closely. You'll think, oh, it didn't break. Yeah, it didn't break until it ran out of energy. If I'd had the energy, it would have broken lovely into the hole. So we've got a little bit of an extra piece there that we've given you just through doing the video, finding what happens, okay? But now you've got 10 parts of the clock face. That's going to break 40% from 7 o'clock and 5 o'clock. What does it do from 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock? Let's have a look. So our final part of the clock face is 8 o'clock, and this is going to break 75% of our original 24. So basically 3/4. So 3/4 of 24, well, 24 divided by 4 is 6, times it by 3, it's going to break 18 inches. I'm coming in a little bit more from the top side, so I'm going to allow 17 inches of break. So we're looking at just over 4 hole widths. So again, let's work that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my line. So far we've seen, because the green is pretty consistent, if I've hit a good putt, the ball has done what we want it to do. Okay, so because we're getting closer to the 9 o'clock, this has got more break than the 7 o'clock, because the 7 o'clock is closer to the 6 o'clock, which is the straight putt. So here we're looking at, again, I'm just aiming at my gadget on the side there, and realize now, not so much up the hill as before, but it is uphill. I'm on the bottom half of the clock. So aim it out there. Let's see if we can get the speed right. Yeah, so again, you can see the ball running there, because I'm thinking I've got to hit it a little bit firmer up the hill, and the ones coming down the hill, because of the dampness, I wasn't quite getting them there. I've been a little bit more aggressive, but you can see what the ball's doing. So hopefully you can see with all of the putts that we've shown you today, how much that is putting, and the green is always finding its way to the low point. Okay, it's always going to find that way. It all depends on then, did you start it on that line, and did you get the right speed? You've seen on a few of my putts today, I didn't get the speed quite right, but you saw the break happening at the end of the putt, which is what we said it would do. So this is my philosophy of reading greens. It will always go where the water goes. And once you know that maximum break, remember, we worked it out. It's a 3% slope. Go and buy yourself something, or use your phone to find out the steepness of the slope. Can't do it in a game. Can't do it in a match. But what you can do is you can do it in a practice round, okay? Really, really important that you're doing that to learn the skills. Everything you're developing in golf is skills, and green reading is a skill. In time, you won't need this. You'll realize as you walk onto that green, like you see a lot of the guys on TV, they're feeling it through their feet, or you'll just see it, you'll think, well, that's a 3% slope. That's a bit more than average, or that's an average slope. That's 2%. So if this green, just to understand, was a 2% slope, then we would have been using the number 16, 2 times 8. If it was a 1% slope, we'd be using 8 as our number. And then you'd go round the clock face and work out where you are relative to that. So we're showing you now that grid. Please use it. Have a play with this idea. It might take a little bit of time to get used to, but if you only gain one thing from this video, find the low point. Understand where the low point is. Understand where the straight uphill putt is. Everything's going to go that way. Okay, if you do that, you're going to see a massive difference in what you're doing in your putting, because you'll realize you've got to allow the break. You've got to put the ball out towards what we call the high side and let it run down towards the low point. If the water runs that way, your ball's going to run that way. And if your greens are consistent and they're good to putt on, then that makes it a lot easier for you, because you know it's going to do that. Okay, so as I said, look at the grid that we're now showing you. Work out what you're going to do, but go to the practice putting green and work on these ideas. If you do, the one thing I'll guarantee, if you take this on board and use it, your 3 putts will disappear. That's the biggest thing I've seen with my golfers, because 1, they get a better line, 2, they get a better speed, because they understand where they are on the clock face and they start getting results. I hope you've enjoyed that video. I've really enjoyed showing you the method that I've taken. Probably took me about 2 years to work this all out, so it wasn't something that I sort of worked out in 5 minutes. It took me about 2 years, and I see such success with my golfers when they use it. If you've enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you soon.